Hey everybody, it is my favorite time of the year. That's right, it is annual bonus time. Now, I can tell you whether it's your annual bonus, a quarterly bonus, or just a larger pay period for you, people are always asking me, Brent, what should I be doing with my money? The good news is I have 3 simple steps that you can follow to make the most of your annual bonus. So we have a lot to cover. Let's dive in. Okay, so step number 1 is arguably the most important step, which is making sure you get the taxes right on your bonuses. What we're really talking about here are the withholdings at a federal level and a state level, if assuming you have state income taxes. Now, bonuses are paid in 2 ways, one of 2 ways, I should say. The first way is just included in a regular paycheck. All right, so if this is the case for you and how your employer pays your bonus, you're lucky because things are a lot easier this way. Most of the time when bonuses are paid this way, your bonus will just fall into your typical tax withholding structure or elections, which means you should typically be on track, assuming you got your withholdings right. Now, the second way that bonuses can be paid is where things get a little tricky, and this is where your bonus is paid as a separate pay period, so a completely separate paycheck. What happens here is the federal government looks at this as supplemental income, just meaning it's separate from your regular paycheck. There's a 22% statutory federal tax withholding. Statutory means by statute or by law, okay? Now, check with your employer to make sure that this is how they will handle your federal taxes in this case. Now, the second thing is when it comes to how states determine your taxable income. States with income taxes are going to look at this and say, wow, this is how much you make every single pay period. Wouldn't that be nice? The challenge with this is then the state is looking at your income as if it's 4 or 5, maybe more X times than your actual regular pay. So they withhold the highest tax bracket in your state. What that means in most cases is you are over withholding in taxes. Said another way, you're going to get a large refund when you file your taxes a year from now, roughly. So here's the thing, from a federal level at 22%, if you're trying to figure out, like, is that too much? Is it too little? The easiest way to do this, because I can't get into all the specifics of withholdings today, is to go pull out your last year's tax return and look at your, what they call effective, that's just your average tax rate. And you want to then compare that to the 22%. That's going to tell you if you're over or under withholding when it comes to your federal taxes. Across the board, you're generally always over withholding from a state perspective. Now, in either situation, what you want to do after your bonus is paid is you then want to go look and do sort of a projection for the rest of the year, something I do for my members all the time, to say, am I on track so I don't have a large refund or a large shortfall or payment due? Because here's the thing, most people like refunds. I hate refunds. And you go, well, would we rather pay? I'd actually rather pay a little bit than get a large refund. A refund just simply means you're giving the government an interest-free loan for that entire period. So don't do that. Moving right along to step number 2 is we have to understand the psychology of bonuses. Trust me, this really matters. As a behavioral expert, and seeing this happen for 20 years, there's one thing we tend to do when we get a bonus: spend it. I'm not saying you shouldn't spend some of your money, but we want to be more intentional with saving and investing first, and then spending and rewarding ourselves second. Here's what happens. When you get your bonus, our brain starts to see it as almost found money or a reward, kind of like if you won the lottery or you received an inheritance. These bonuses create an emotional high around money. There's excitement around it, right? When that happens, our subconscious and unconscious brain can sort of override our logical, rational thinking brain and tell us, go spend the money, enjoy it. I mean, generally speaking, this is what we do with money anyways. We're much better at spending it today, using it in the short term versus planning for this thing in the future, right? 10 or 20 years down the road. So the most important thing you can do here when it comes to the psychology of money is what they call pre-commitment theory. Don't worry. All that means is you're going to make a plan in advance before right? You're going to have a plan, commit to doing something before the bonus is actually paid. Now, if the bonus has already been paid, but you still have your money on hand, don't worry, you can still apply step 3, how to be more intentional with that money you bring home from your bonus. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you not to spend it or have fun with it, but I'm going to tell you how to do that the right way. And I'm not going to give you some 50, 30, 20 framework or cookie cutter advice. I just don't like cookie cutter advice. It doesn't make it wrong if frameworks work for you, but I'm going to share with you how I do it and what's worked for my members in 20 years. Okay, now the number one thing I do here is I always say invest in yourself first, because people always say, hey, I have $10,000. How can I invest it? The question I always ask is, hey, how can I invest in myself and maybe make an extra $10,000 more per year? So the first thing I want you to do is think about, are there other ways to invest in yourself, your personal growth? It could be certifications, licenses, anything you need to maybe get a promotion at work, maybe change jobs, get a pay raise, maybe start a side hustle or your own small business. A great way to think about growing your human or earning capital so you can build more wealth long term. Okay, so that was invest in yourself. Step number 2 is pay yourself first, slightly different. All we want to do here is save and invest before we spend the money. What we typically do is we spend it first, and we save and invest what's left over, but we find that there isn't much or anything left over at the end of the month. So we just want to put this before the spending part of the strategy here. Okay. Now, when it comes to where to save and invest, this really comes down to what I mentioned in step number 2, is making a list of your goals, prioritizing them, and then understanding where do I want that money to go. Think of it like a waterfall, right? You're going to make this list, and then you're going to have that bonus payment go down step by step into the various buckets to help you achieve those goals. So things that typically come up, maybe you're topping off your emergency fund, maybe there's some debt you want to pay down or off. Next up, you should be looking at your company-sponsored retirement plan. That's a 401k, 403, TSP, LMNOP, right? In that case. From there, we then want to start looking at individual retirement accounts. So traditional IRAs, a Roth IRA. If you're a high earner, maybe look at a backdoor Roth IRA strategy. And last but not least, for those people that have a high deductible health plan, you might want to think about putting some money or topping off your health savings account. Now, I can't get into that account today, but you have to check out my other YouTube video on how to maximize the benefits of your HSA. Okay, so if we keep going on the list here, maybe the next account for you is a taxable investment account or brokerage account. So just a non-retirement way to invest. For me as a parent, I actually put some of my money towards an education savings account or 529 plan for my daughter, planning for those future education costs. And then, of course, last but not least, if you're looking to buy a home or maybe you're looking to buy a house, start putting some of that money aside for the down payment for when you ultimately make that purchase. All right, and the final part is if you did those first 2 steps right, you can spend the rest of the money any way you want. Guilt-free, stress-free spending. That's the cool part about this, right? If you're intentional about how you use your money, it doesn't matter how you spend the rest of it. Now, you should probably use it in more meaningful ways, right? So maybe there's a big goal you have. Maybe you want to take a big vacation or you want to travel. Maybe you want to go see a concert or see an event. Now, there's a lot of other things you can do. Hobbies, art classes, dance lessons, music lessons, doesn't matter. The cool part is if you do the first couple steps right, you can spend this money any way you want and enjoy it. So there you have it, 3 simple steps to make the most of your bonus. Look, if you found this information helpful, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more great content from myself and my team here at Facet.